Most people think retiring early is a rich person's game. It isn't. The single biggest thing that decides when you retire isn't your salary. It's a number most people have never sat down and worked out. And once you see it, you can't unsee it. Because here's the uncomfortable maths. If you're a 60-year-old man, on average you've got around 24 years of life left. But how many of those are genuinely healthy, active years, where you and your partner have the energy to actually travel, hike, do the stuff on the bucket list? Maybe 10. And how many of those before something gets in the way? A parent who needs caring for, or your own health? Realistically, 4 or 5. So, if you can claw back even 1 or 2 of those prime years and retire a little earlier, that's not a small win. That might be the whole game. And there's a reason we put this off. Our brains treat our future self like a total stranger. In one experiment, people who were shown an aged photo of themselves, wrinkles, grey hair, the lot, went away and saved twice as much for retirement. Twice. Nothing changed except they looked their future self in the eye. So, before any of the numbers, do that. That older version of you is real, and they're relying entirely on what you do right now. So let's kill the biggest myth first, that this is only for high earners. Whether you're on 20,000 a year or 200,000, the tools are exactly the same. Pensions, index funds, compound growth, saving on autopilot. None of it is secret, none of it is locked behind being rich. What actually decides your timeline is your savings rate, the percentage of your take-home pay, including your pension, that you keep instead of spend. And it's not a straight line, it's a curve. Saving 5%, you're looking at a very long road. But nudge it up and the years start falling away fast. Push from 10% to 15%, and you can knock years clean off your retirement date. The reason is a lovely 2-for-1. Every pound you learn to live without is a pound you can invest, and a pound you no longer need to fund in retirement. It works on both ends at once, which is why spending a little less is, pound for pound, about twice as powerful as earning more. As the old line goes, invest like an optimist, but save like a pessimist. And this is exactly why lifestyle creep is so dangerous. Every pay rise, the temptation is to upgrade the car, the flat, the holidays to match. But if your spending climbs every time your income does, your savings rate never moves. And someone earning 50,000 who spends it all ends up no closer to freedom than someone on 25,000 who spends it all. So here's a simple guardrail. When a pay rise lands, let some of it improve your life, but send a good chunk straight to your future before you ever get used to it. Before we go further, one quick foundation. You can't build wealth on quicksand, so if you're carrying expensive debt, credit cards, buy now, pay later, that gets cleared first and you want a small cushion of easy access cash behind you. Boring, but it's the base everything else stands on. Now the real unlock, and it's almost embarrassingly simple. Automate it. The day your pay lands, your savings and investments should move themselves out, into your pension, into your ISA, before you can so much as look at the money. Warren Buffett put it best. Don't save what's left after spending. Spend what's left after saving. Flip the order, automate the whole thing, and you never have to rely on willpower again. Because willpower breaks. 1 month you're tired, 1 month it's Christmas, 1 month the money's just gone. A standing order doesn't have bad months. Set it up once and your future gets funded whether you're feeling disciplined that week or not. So what are you actually aiming at? There's a brilliant bit of maths for this, but it only works if you know one thing first, what you actually spend in a year. And most people genuinely don't. So that's the homework. Work out your real annual spending. Then take that number and multiply it by 25. That's your target. Want to spend $24,000 a year? Your number is £600,000. That comes from the 4% rule. The idea that you can draw roughly 4% of your pot each year without running dry. Some people argue that for a really long retirement you should be more cautious. 3.5%. Maybe lower. That's fair. But here's the beautiful part. In those final years, the compounding snowball is moving so fast that shifting from a 4% target to 3.5% might only cost you a couple of extra years of saving. The finish line is a lot closer than the big, scary number makes it look. And one thing that makes the whole plan far safer, you don't have to spend the exact same amount every single year. The people who retire early and never run out are the ones who flex, spending a bit more in the good years when markets are up and reining it in a little when they're down. That flexibility alone can be the difference between a plan that works and one that doesn't. Because honestly, the difference between people who retire early and people who just dream about it is rarely income. It's that one group worked out their number and built a plan around it, and everyone else just drifts. So, be in the first group. Now, the engine that gets you there. If you're employed in the UK and you haven't opted out, you're already in a workplace pension. 5% from you, 3% from your employer. That's 8% going in every single month that you barely even notice. That's your base layer. But here's where it gets clever. If you're a basic rate taxpayer whose employer offers salary sacrifice, bumping your own contribution from 5% up to 10% might only cut your take-home pay by around 3.5%, because you stop paying income tax and national insurance on that slice. A tiny hit to your pay packet now for a meaningfully bigger pension later. It's one of the best deals in UK personal finance, and most people never take it. And it doesn't take huge sums to matter. Every £10 you put into a personal pension gets instantly topped up to £12.50 by tax relief. So £300 a month quietly becomes £375 before a penny of growth. Keep that going. Nudge it up a little each year. And over a couple of decades, that alone can grow into hundreds of thousands of pounds. Then compounding does the heavy lifting. But the catch is it's brutally slow at the start. In one example, on the average wage, the first £100,000 took about 15 years, and it feels like nothing's happening. But the next 100,000 took just 6 years, then 4, then 3. Same money going in each month. The growth is simply doing more and more of the work. It's exactly like building an athlete. The early base training looks like zero progress day, and then everything you quietly laid down starts paying off all at once. But there's a very British wrinkle to retiring early. Your pension is locked away. Right now you can't touch a private pension until 55, and from April 2028 that rises to 57. The state pension won't arrive until at least 67. So if you want to stop at, say, 50, you've got a gap to cover in between. Now think back to that times 25 number. That assumes you fund every single year of retirement out of your own pot. But you won't have to, because your workplace pension unlocks at 57 and the state pension after that. And together they do a huge amount of the heavy lifting later on, which means the only stretch you actually have to fund entirely yourself is the gap. And here's the trick most people miss. You bridge that gap with a stocks and shares ISA, which you can get at any age, completely tax-free. Instead of needing the full number in cash today, you just need enough to carry you across those few years until your pensions take over. That's the difference between early retirement feeling impossible and it being a plan you can genuinely build. Now, where to actually put your energy? Because most people aim it at completely the wrong things. Stop asking £3 questions and start asking £30,000 ones, agonising over the price of a coffee or which streaming service to cancel. That's noise. The questions that move the needle are the big ones. Can I negotiate a pay rise? Can I save an extra 1% this year? What am I paying in fees? Answer those, and you'll do more for your future in one afternoon than a decade of skipping lattes. And fees are the perfect example because they're invisible and they're brutal. Anything above 1% a year on your pension and your funds is getting expensive. And there are good options at half of that. Sounds trivial, right? Here's what it actually does. Take £100,000 growing over 30 years. With rock bottom fees, it might grow to north of 700,000. Pay 1% the whole way. And you could end up closer to 570,000. That gap, well over £150,000, left your pocket and went to someone else for doing very little. So go and check what you're paying. It's a 10-minute job that could be worth a fortune. 2 last things. First, your temperament. The market will fall sometimes and occasionally it'll fall hard. But if you're still years away from retiring, a crash isn't a die suster. It's a sale. Prices just dropped 30%. For a long-term investor, that's usually the moment to keep calmly buying, not to panic and sell. And if the whole idea still feels terrifying, here's the reframe that helps most. Leaving work doesn't have to be a one-way door. Think of it as a sabbatical, a trial run at your new life, not a life sentence away from work. You can always go back. And even a bit of part-time income in those first few years takes enormous pressure off the plan. Earning even a few thousand a year doing something you actually enjoy can dramatically improve your odds of never running out. Retiring early doesn't have to mean never working again. It just means work becomes optional. Because here's what it all comes down to. You can't control the markets, the headlines, or what the government does with the pension age, but you can control your savings rate, your fees, and how you behave when things get bumpy. Those are your inputs, so that's where your focus goes. Retiring early was never really about being rich. It's about buying back those healthy, active years while you've still got the legs to enjoy them. Work out your number this week. And if it's opened your eyes even a little, send it to one person who needs to see it too.